She didn't know I was watching her that first time, or maybe she did. Every evening around 6, when the sun dipped behind the maple trees, her kitchen window glowed a faint amber. I could see her silhouette moving inside, deliberate, graceful, the kind of calm that makes you stop mid-step. She'd brush her hair back with slow fingers, pour herself a glass of something pale, and stand by the counter for a while before disappearing deeper into the house. At first, I told myself it was curiosity. New neighborhood, new faces. But the truth, the one I kept pushing away, was that I liked the stillness of her. The way she filled silence without saying a word. Her name was Claire. Mid-40s, maybe. Sharp eyes that noticed things people didn't expect her to. A low voice that carried even when she spoke softly. The kind of woman who'd learned to stay composed even when something rattled her. We only spoke once before that night. Just a polite exchange on the driveway about trash bins and schedules. I remember the small half-smile she gave me. Polite, distant, but kind. Then she walked off, her perfume trailing in the air. Something with cedar, something that stayed. After that, I kept noticing her. The sound of her heels on the porch steps. The way she'd stand in her garden, rubbing her thumb over the rim of her coffee cup. Sometimes she caught me looking, and instead of turning away, she just looked back. Steady, unreadable. That evening, it rained. Thin streaks against the blinds, tapping in a rhythm I couldn't ignore. I'd been pretending to read, but the noise made it impossible to concentrate. My light was off, hers was on. Through the slats, I saw her again. Leaning against the counter, arms crossed, watching the rain like it had said something personal to her. Then her head turned. Not a sudden motion, but slow, deliberate. Her eyes found mine through the blinds. For a second, I froze. I could have ducked, turned off the lamp, done something to play it off, but I didn't. Her gaze stayed on me, steady, like she was weighing what to do next. Then she moved, disappearing from view. A few seconds later, there was a soft knock at my door. When I opened it, she stood there with an umbrella dripping against her wrist. Her hair was damp at the ends, clinging to her cheek. She looked straight at me, a half-smile playing at her mouth. "Since you've already seen me," she said, her tone light but not mocking, "you might as well come in." I should have laughed, said something clever, but nothing came out. I just nodded once and followed her across the narrow strip of wet grass. Inside, the air smelled like rain and warm vanilla. The lamp by her sofa threw a soft gold light over everything. The books, the quiet mess on her coffee table, her bare feet on the rug. She glanced back at me, one brow raised. "You don't talk much, do you?" "Not when I shouldn't," I said. Her lips curved. "That's a dangerous answer." For a moment, neither of us spoke. The rain softened, but the silence between us didn't. Her hand brushed mine barely as she reached to close the blinds. My breath caught, though I tried not to let it show. Then there was another sound, the sharp knock of someone at her back door. She froze, eyes darting toward the noise. She didn't move right away, just looked at me, a look that felt like a question. And then, quietly, she whispered, "Don't say anything." The knock at her back door faded after a moment, followed by the sound of footsteps retreating into the rain. Neither of us spoke until it was gone. She exhaled slowly, almost like she'd been holding her breath the whole time. "Delivery," she said finally, her voice softer now. "They always use the wrong door." But she didn't move right away. Her fingers still rested on the edge of the curtain. Then she looked back at me as if remembering I was there, or maybe deciding whether she wanted me to stay. "Do you want coffee?" I nodded, and she turned toward the kitchen. The click of the switch filled the silence, and warm light spilled over stainless steel and half-washed dishes. It was the first imperfection I'd noticed in her home, and somehow it made her feel real, reachable. She set a mug in front of me, then leaned against the counter across from where I sat. The sleeves of her sweater were rolled up, showing small veins on her wrists. Her eyes met mine, not searching, just watching. "You live alone?" I asked. "For a few years now." She said it without weight, like it was a fact she'd rehearsed enough times to make it sound simple. "My ex moved out when our daughter left for college." I hesitated. You miss it? Having people around. Her mouth twitched, half amusement, half something else. Sometimes. The quiet gets loud when there's no one to talk to. She tilted her head slightly. What about you? You strike me as someone who's running from noise. I looked down at the steam rising from the cup. Maybe. Or looking for something that feels like it's not pretending. Her eyes softened, but she didn't answer. When she reached for the sugar jar, her hand brushed mine. Not by accident. Not entirely on purpose either. A quiet pause stretched between us. I caught the faint scent of her perfume, the same cedar warmth I remembered from the driveway. She pulled her hand back first. We should probably stop making this weird, she said. But the smile that followed didn't match the words. I'm not sure we can, I said. Her breath hitched, subtle, almost hidden. You don't know what you're getting into. Maybe not, I said quietly. But I keep showing up anyway. For a second, she looked like she might laugh. Then she stepped closer, just enough that the edge of her sweater brushed my arm. You're too young for this kind of trouble, she whispered, but she didn't move away. I don't think you're the kind that breaks people, I said. Her gaze lifted to meet mine. The distance between us felt like something alive, something that demanded a choice neither of us was ready to make. Then her phone buzzed on the counter, the sound slicing the moment in half. She reached for it but didn't pick it up. The screen went dark again, and she let out a breath that trembled at the edges. When she finally spoke, her voice was low. You should go before I forget what I'm supposed to be careful about. I stood, but she didn't move away. Our shoulders brushed as I passed, soft and unintentional. At the door, I turned back once. She hadn't moved, just stood there, eyes fixed on the cup I'd left behind. Neither of us said goodnight, and somehow that silence felt like the beginning of something neither of us could name yet. The next time I saw her was 3 days later. Afternoon light was spilling through the blinds again, the same soft gold that had started everything. I was fixing the fence when her voice called out, You missed a spot. I turned. She stood by the gate holding a paper bag. Her sunglasses hid her eyes, but the curve of her mouth gave her away. Lunch, she said, lifting the bag slightly. Peace offering for invading your house last time. I wiped my hands on my shirt. You mean inviting me in? Her smile tightened. Right? That. Inside. She set the bag on my counter and took off her sunglasses. For a moment she just looked around, like she was mapping the space, deciding what version of herself belonged here. You keep it neat, she said, tracing a finger along the counter's edge. I don't have much to mess up. She gave a small nod, then caught her reflection in the microwave door. Her fingers brushed her hair back, adjusting nothing. I watched too long, probably. She noticed. You do that a lot, she said quietly. What? Look at people like you're trying to memorize them. I started to answer, but the sound of a door opening down the hall made her freeze. My roommate, Jake. He appeared halfway down the hallway, earbuds in, phone in hand. He stopped when he saw her. Mid-40s, standing too close to me, holding takeout like we'd done this a dozen times. Hey, he said, confused. Ooh-ee. Hi, she said smoothly, already stepping back. I'm Claire. Neighbor. He nodded, eyes darting between us. Right, yeah, cool. Didn't know we had one. She smiled, perfect composure. Now you do. As soon as he disappeared again, she exhaled sharply. That was close. Too close, I asked. Her eyes flicked to mine. Depends what this is. The air between us felt heavier now. Her perfume, the warmth of the kitchen, the thrum in my chest that wouldn't quit. She moved toward the counter, her hand brushing against mine as she reached for the bag. I didn't move. Her voice lowered. You shouldn't look at me like that. Then stop standing so close. She froze, her breath catching, her fingers tightening around the paper handle. You really don't understand what this could turn into. Then explain it, I said. Her eyes softened, and for the first time, I saw something close to fear behind them. Not of me, but of herself. I've done this before, she whispered. Fallen for someone I shouldn't have. It doesn't end softly. The silence that followed was unbearable. My hand found her wrist. Not pulling, just holding. Her pulse jumped beneath my thumb. She didn't pull away. Her lips parted slightly, like she wanted to say my name but couldn't decide if that would make it worse. The sound of Jake's laughter from the other room broke the stillness like glass. We both flinched. Claire stepped back, her voice a shaky whisper. "We can't." "I know," I said. "But you're still here." She looked at me for a long second, eyes flicking from my mouth to my hands, back to my face. Then she turned toward the door, but before she reached it, she stopped, just close enough that her shoulder brushed mine again. "This has to stop," she said, but the tremor in her voice made it sound more like a promise she already knew she wouldn't keep. Rain again. It always seemed to find us. I hadn't seen her for a week. Not a glimpse through the blinds, not a half wave by the mailboxes. Every day I told myself to let it go, and every night I found myself watching her window anyway. That night, the lights in her kitchen flicked on. A shadow crossed the glass, then another. She wasn't alone. A man's voice, low, familiar, carried faintly through the rain. Couldn't make out words, only tones. Laughter, then silence. Before I could stop myself, I was already at her door. She opened it before I even knocked twice, like she'd been standing on the other side. Her expression faltered when she saw me. A quick flicker between surprise and something sharper. "You shouldn't be here," she said. "There's someone with you." Her lips parted. A quiet breath. "Just an old friend." Sounded like more than that. "Does it matter?" she asked, crossing her arms. "We said this needed to stop. Did we?" I said. My voice came out rougher than I meant it to. Her eyes lingered on me. Soaked from the rain, jaw tight, too close to losing control. "You need to leave before." But the rest didn't come out. The man's voice called from inside. "Claire!" She hesitated, then stepped outside and closed the door behind her, shutting the sound off like it hurt. We stood under the porch light, the rain spitting against her bare arms. She didn't move, but her breathing changed, shallow, unsteady. "You don't get to show up like this," she whispered. "You're too young to know what you're asking for. I know what it feels like to want something you can't stop thinking about." Her eyes met mine, and whatever guard she had left began to slip. She shook her head slightly, like she was fighting the words she wanted to say. "You think this is simple?" she said, stepping closer. "You think it's just attraction? You don't know what it's like to rebuild after someone walks out, to finally stop needing anyone, and then have you standing there, looking at me like I'm still someone worth needing." Her voice broke on that last word. I reached up before I could stop myself, brushed a strand of wet hair from her cheek. She didn't move. Her skin was cool from the rain. My fingers lingered too long. "Maybe you don't want to need anyone," I said quietly, "but you already let me in once." She closed her eyes, exhaled slowly. "You're going to ruin me, then ruin me back." Her breath caught, sharp, trembling. The porch light flickered above us, the air thick with rain and things unsaid. Her hand found my chest, fingers curling slightly in my shirt. "Don't make me choose this," she whispered. I leaned in, just close enough to feel her breath brush my lips. For a heartbeat, the world shrank to the space between us. Then the door behind her creaked open. The man's voice again. "Claire!" She froze. Her eyes opened, wide, torn between two impossible directions. And in the smallest voice, barely above the rain, she said, "Please, go." But she didn't let go of my shirt until the very last second. 2 days passed before I saw her again. The man from her porch, whoever he was, hadn't come back. But something between us had shifted. The silence wasn't empty anymore. It was loaded, sharp-edged. That evening, she appeared outside while I was checking my mailbox. She wore a loose sweater, her hair up, no makeup. She looked tired or maybe just honest. "Walk with me," she said. We didn't go far, just down the block where the streetlights started to thin out. The wind had that early night chill that makes everything sound closer than it is. "I owe you an explanation," she said finally. "You don't owe me anything." She stopped walking. That man you saw, he's my ex-husband. I stared at her, waiting. He still has a key, she added. Shows up sometimes. Says he wants to check on the place. I don't stop him. Why not? She laughed quietly, but there was no humor in it. Because it's easier than pretending it never mattered. She looked down, arms wrapped around herself. I didn't lie to you. I just didn't tell you the truth fast enough. Something in my chest tightened. You don't have to protect me from that. Her eyes flicked up to mine, steady but tired. I'm not protecting you. I'm protecting me. The wind picked up, tossing her hair loose. She reached to fix it, but her hand trembled halfway through. Without thinking, I reached out, brushed it back gently. My fingers grazed her neck. She didn't move away. Every time I see you, she said, voice low, I start to forget how to be careful. Then don't be. Her eyes closed for a second. Not like she was savoring it, but like she was trying not to break. When she opened them again, something unreadable flickered there. You don't understand, she said. He knows about you. The words hit harder than I expected. How? He saw us that night, she whispered, through the blinds. He didn't say anything then, but he mentioned it when he came by. Said I looked comfortable with my new neighbor. My pulse jumped. What did you tell him? That you're just a neighbor. The space between us felt suddenly fragile, like one wrong word could shatter it. Her fingers brushed mine again, unintentionally, then lingered. If he finds out there's more, she trailed off, shaking her head. You think he'd hurt you? Not like that, she said. He'd use it. My daughter still visits. He'd make sure she knew. He'd find a way to make it ugly. The quiet that followed was thick with fear and want and something neither of us could untangle. Then let me go, I said softly, if it's that dangerous. But before I could finish, she stepped closer. Close enough that the words died in my throat. I tried, she said, her voice breaking. You kept showing up. She pressed a hand against my chest. Not to push me away, but to steady herself. For a long moment, neither of us moved. The night was too still, the air too full of things we couldn't say. Then she whispered, Come by tomorrow, noon. No one will be here. Her hand slipped away as she turned, walking back toward her house without looking back. And just before she disappeared inside, I heard her voice, faint, almost lost to the wind. After that, I can't promise I'll stop pretending anymore. The next day came heavy with gray clouds and that quiet before rain, the kind that makes every sound feel intimate. I told myself not to go. I even made it to the end of the block before turning back. By the time I reached her porch, the air smelled like thunder and regret. Her door was already unlocked. Inside, the light was dim, the blinds half drawn. She stood by the window, one hand resting on the sill, her back to me. I didn't think you'd come, she said without turning around. I almost didn't. Why didn't you stay away? Because you asked me not to. She turned then, slowly, like she was afraid the moment would collapse if she moved too fast. Her eyes found mine, unreadable but softer than I'd ever seen them. I shouldn't have, she said. You make it too easy to forget the parts of myself I'm supposed to protect. I took a step closer. Maybe you don't have to keep protecting them. She gave a small, sad smile. You really believe that, don't you? I didn't answer. The distance between us was a heartbeat, maybe two. The air felt charged, humming with everything we hadn't said. Her hand lifted, hesitant, and brushed my collarbone, tracing the line of my shirt as if memorizing it. The touch was light, almost nothing, but my whole body reacted. She looked up, voice barely above a whisper. You have no idea what you're doing to me. I think I do, I said. Her breath caught. And you still want this? Yes. Her fingers trembled where they rested against me. It's not fair. It's real. That word seemed to undo something in her. She stepped closer, close enough that I could feel the warmth of her breath, the subtle tremor running through her. Her eyes flicked to my mouth, then back to my eyes. I keep waiting for this to make sense, she murmured. It doesn't. Maybe it's not supposed to. She let out a soft, unsteady laugh, the sound breaking halfway through. Then she reached up, her hand finding the side of my face. For a second, everything stopped. No rain, no noise, just her thumb tracing my jaw and my pulse hammering beneath her touch. "I'm so tired of pretending," she whispered. "Then stop." Her lips parted. One breath, one heartbeat away, and then she hesitated. I saw the battle in her eyes. Fear, want, the history she still carried like armor. "I can't promise you anything," she said. "Not forever, not even tomorrow." "I'm not asking for that," I said. "Just now." The space between us finally broke. She leaned in, slow, deliberate, until her forehead rested against mine. The rain started again, soft against the windows. Neither of us moved for a long time. Her breath mixed with mine, uneven, trembling. When she finally spoke, it was a whisper that felt like truth. "You see me too clearly," she said, and I understood that whatever came next, this moment had already changed everything. She didn't kiss me. She didn't need to. The silence said it all. It rained through the night. By morning, everything outside her window looked washed clean. The porch, the grass, the air itself. Inside, though, it felt like the storm had settled between us instead of passing. Claire sat on the couch, one knee tucked under her, holding a mug she wasn't drinking from. I stood by the window, pretending to watch the street, but every few seconds I found myself looking back at her. She caught me once and smiled, soft but knowing. "You still don't talk much," she said. "I'm afraid I'll say the wrong thing." She looked down into her cup. "Maybe there isn't a wrong thing anymore." Across the room, slow. The air felt thick. Not tense this time, just full. When I reached her, she set the mug aside and looked up at me. The circles under her eyes were darker than before, but she looked lighter somehow, like she'd finally stopped holding her breath. "Last night," she said quietly, "I didn't sleep. I kept thinking about what happens next." "What did you decide?" She hesitated. "That maybe it doesn't have to be about deciding. Maybe it's enough that it's real." I nodded, and she reached for my hand. Tentative at first, then firmer, fingers threading through mine. Her hand was warm, small but steady. "I used to think the age difference would make this wrong," she said. "That it made me foolish or selfish." She looked up at me, eyes steady. "But maybe what's worse is pretending I don't feel alive when I'm with you." I didn't know what to say, so I did the only thing that felt right. I sat down beside her, close enough that our shoulders touched. For a while, neither of us spoke. The clock ticked softly from the kitchen. The air smelled like rain and coffee. Finally, I said, "You don't have to protect me, Claire." She turned her head toward me, lips curving slightly. "I think you've been the one protecting me." Her voice broke a little on that. I reached out, brushed my thumb along her jaw. She leaned into the touch like she'd been waiting for it. Then she rested her head against my shoulder. Slow, careful, like she wasn't sure she was allowed to. I felt her breath, the warmth of her against me, the quiet rhythm of something that didn't need to be rushed anymore. After a while, she spoke again, eyes half closed. "You know, this started with you watching me. I wasn't proud of that," I said. She smiled faintly. "You looked at me like I still mattered. I hadn't felt that in a long time." I turned, pressed a kiss to her forehead. Not rushed, not hesitant, just honest. When she looked up again, her eyes were glassy but calm. "So what now?" she whispered. "Now," I said, "we stop pretending it didn't happen." She nodded once, then leaned in, resting her hand over my heart. The quietest kind of promise. The rain eased outside, leaving only the sound of her breathing beside me, steady and close. For the first time, neither of us needed words. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?